All right. Tonight we are joined by none other than Mr. Anthony Santi. Maybe some of our listeners have heard his little intro promo to a previous podcast, but Sant, thanks for joining Oj and I here on SS3TP.
Thank you for so much for having me. There are thousands of other better eligible interviewees than myself, so I'm just thrilled to be here.
Coach, you didn't even ask him yet. You got to ask the question, right?
Eh, Well, since he's in the promo, but have you actually listened to any of these podcasts?
I have. I've listened to everyone, some of them more than once. You guys came out, I don't know when it was, but I think joined up around episode 4. I was looking forward to a nice sauna podcast, and it had nothing to do with saunas. And you guys filled a good gap that there was a podcast a couple of years back. You guys interviewed Jerry Redinger. His son did a UP podcast. They talked about sports. I'm not a big podcast guy, but you guys fill a big void in sports in the UP. So I appreciate everything that you guys do.
Oh, that's so good to hear, Oj. So he might actually be considered one of our tens of fans.
Well, if you're listening to episodes more than once, it might be crazed fan.
You've probably listened to more episodes than Oj has.
I haven't listened to one, I don't think, full. I just want to make sure I sound good. I listen to the lyrics at the end, and the rest of it I don't care about.
You're dialed. You're dialed. That one week you were dialed in, though. I think Coach Crouch had some Michigan Tech football things going on, and you were dialed in. So
I had to step it up. I stepped it up.
Yep.
So Anthony Santi is a grad of Kingsford. Played for Coach Hofer.
Yep.
Success there. But go back. Let's talk about your days at Kingsford. You guys had a nice squad there. Obviously played for Hope and some other great coaches there. But talk about your days back in Kingsford.
Yeah, so I grew up in Kingsford, Michigan. I grew up right across the street from a high school football field. So I think that instilled the love of football in me right away. It also didn't help that my mom was also a high school, or a elementary school teacher. So we went to a lot of the road games. So yeah, grew up in Kingsford. They had a very powerful squad back in as you guys had an earlier podcast in episode 5, right around there about the Iron Mountain Kingsford. I learned something on that. I tell everyone when I go back home now, we're the undefeated state champs in 1993. But yeah, just grew up in Kingsford, big football school, and other sports as well. But yeah, just the love of football right away was just from growing up across the street. You know, Coach, you could look at my stats at Michigan Tech. I'm 5'10". I think the thing said a 5'11", but in Kingsford, I was like one of the biggest guys in the offensive line, and varsity. But yeah, so back to Kingsford football. Like I know this is probably get you going a little bit. We had a Pop Warner program when I was growing up, and loving football, I joined that. The thing that stunk about it, being a heavier guy, I could never play with any of my buddies. It was all based on weight back in the day. So I did that for maybe 3 years and then gave that up, I think right around 6th grade. It wasn't fun playing with the 8th graders when you're in 5th grade due to your weight. So little bit different back then. Now I think they got like different rules and stripers and stuff like that. I know I kind of agree with a lot of the stuff that you guys think about too with the youth football programs. I agree with that 100%. It kind of might get some guys off the, not wanting to play when they get to the high school level. But yeah, so grew up in Kingsford. In high school, my first year I played football. I was actually on the ski team. I know you guys talked about golf in previous episodes and how that might be the most sweetest sport to play in high school. But I'm telling you what, skiing, you get out of school 14, 15 days a year and if you don't make varsity, you still go ski. And then I did track and baseball, which we had American Legion. We didn't have high school back in the day. So did that. And then when I became a sophomore, someone kind of put something in my ear that a lot of the Iowa offensive linemen wrestled in high school. And I was like, I have no idea what wrestling is, but let's give it a shot. And my first year at varsity level, I think I weighed 170. I wrestled at 189. I went 1-34.
Who did you beat?
It was a forfeit, Oj. Not lying. So, But that's one thing I'm very thankful for my parents. Like that was my mom's number one rule is I was not allowed to quit. I wanted to quit within the first week, but stuck it through. And then, I wrestled the rest of my, I actually my junior, I went 500. It was like 15 and 15. I just, I progressed a little bit better, but I just remember we had a wrestling match like in Westwood or Escanaba, and I was going against some stud from, I think, Westwood. He wrestled in college in Central Michigan. I don't remember his last name, but I know Lee Moran. I wrestled him one time. He came up to me. He's like, dude, you pinned yourself in the first match. No idea. No freaking idea, right? I'm just like, I don't even know what the motions are. So, but I'm thankful I did that. That really helped me progress to become a better football player. And actually, I think that was a big thing that got me to Michigan Tech to play football. But
Well,
we had some.
let's talk about this a little bit, Sant. In Kingsford, you played with some great dudes. Obviously,
Yep.
the coaching staff there was second to none. But talk about the relationships that you built at Kingsford. Your friends, obviously, you guys had great success. And a number of you guys moved on to play at the. I mean, we'll get to the Tech part later, but
Yep.
talk
Yep.
about that.
Yep.
You got some dudes that are lifelong friends.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Coach Crouch, I don't consider myself even close to being an athletic person compared to these guys. Lifelong friend with Steve Short. He was our quarterback. We had an awesome fullback. He actually got multiple college offers. Kevin Stonick, he was a freight train at fullback. But again, like other schools in the UP, our guards were 160. Jake Supa was a tight end for us. He got offered to play up at Northern. He didn't pursue that opportunity, but we had some really, really good players down in Kingsford at the time. And it was weird too, because at the time, the GNC, and it was funny because like once we got to Tech or like when I moved out east, I tell people about my high school career. We only played 4 to 5 games in the UP a year. We would be traveling 4 times. 4 times we'd be going down to Green Bay. We'd be going down to Milwaukee. They'd come up to us. We played Duluth, I think my junior or senior year. Crushed them all at the same time, except Mequon. Mequon put us in our place real quick. But we had very athletic guys. Everyone bought into the program. We were in the weight room, kind of like someone was talking about Calumet football, same thing. We'd be in the weight room either before or after work. Everyone bought in. Coach Hofer had a really good on Friday mornings, we'd play Air Force football every Friday morning throughout the year. So in the winter time, in the spring, just to get the guys, I don't know, it was just really good camaraderie that we had. So,
well, being a Kingsford guy, I got to ask you, and we've talked about this a number of times, and we just had an interview recently with Dave Holmes,
yep,
the superintendent at Kingsford. We're both good friends with Scott Body. We had Coach Wender on. Just talk for a minute about your experience and your memories of the rivalry of the game with Iron Mountain over the years.
Still get heated, Oj. I shouldn't have done this a couple of weeks ago. It's just bred into you that you just hate Iron Mountain, even though I lived right across from the football field from Kingsford. Iron Mountain was like 75 yards behind my house. There was just extreme hatred that 1 week of the year. You were best buddies I was best buddies with guys from Iron Mountain, but that 1 week you were TP in their house. You were doing shenanigans to them. I mean, it was one year, I think we might have thrown a deer, dismembered a deer and threw it in someone's yard. There was just some hatred to it, but at the same time, they were some of the most hard-nosed games. I was in my career at Kingsford, we were 50-50. Every other year, they beat us, we beat them. Everyone was dialed up for it, especially at the varsity level. It was your only Saturday game.
Yeah.
Every game through the year is Friday, Saturday. That was what I always tell people. Our shortest road trip in high school was down the street. Everything else, we were taking coach buses. I know that's probably we're a little pompous on that, but that was the only time we took a school bus was when we went to Iron Mountain every other year to play them. It is a high intensity game. I'm really still bummed that they don't play them. I probably should just bury the hatchet with it. There's been times that I'm like, Iron Mountain's playing Dollar Bay this weekend. You still just, I don't know. You still get kind of amped up that game doesn't exist anymore. And I get it, right? Enrollments are down and stuff like that, but I still think the game would be super competitive. Now, that's just me because I was playing at the time. My brother, who played 3 years younger than me, I think they crushed them 47-7. But he always likes to say that he had the highest victory against Iron Mountain. But it's just very high intensity. And like I said, once the game was over, you were best friends again with those guys.
Yeah, I went to a number of those games over the years. I don't remember the exact games. I was in Kingsford for at least two, and I think Iron Mountain for one. But it just didn't seem to matter, record wise or which team
And
had a little more talent or whatever. And obviously, both programs were good, but those games were just wars, and what a blast and what an atmosphere.
I remember like I played center in high school, and like you're in the huddle and you look up, and most high school games, people are barely in the stands or it's filled. It was all the way around. If you guys been, I'm sure you guys have been to the UP track meet of the year. It was literally both sides just compact, and you're just like, holy cow, there's this many people. And like when I was in college, one year I got hurt, I went back just to watch the game. Very high intensity game. I know. I'm still bummed that they don't play each other. I get it. There's probably reasons why, but
Yeah, well, you're getting old like us now, son. But let's transition. And then you went on to play football at Michigan Tech, but
yep.
let's not look at the end of that. Let's look at the beginning of that and what went into to getting there, because it's a pretty cool story about how you started compared to how you.
Yeah. Yeah, so like in high school, I kind of knew I wanted to play at a higher level, and being 5 foot nothing, right, 195, 210 pounds in high school, your opportunities aren't really out there unless you're looking to maybe go Division 3, or what, figure something out. So actually, the year before my senior year, I started long snapping every night after work, with the man's passed away since then, but Mr. Bruno Marana.
Oh yeah.
He'd be like in his 80s. He's coaching me how to long snap. I'm out there, it could be 85 degrees. I lived across the street from the high school, so it helped. My neighbor Art Vines, he had keys. He's in his 70s. He's catching these long snaps. But I would literally every I think it was like probably 3 to 4 nights a week, we would do at least 100 snaps, the punt snaps and the field goal snaps. So that's how I kind of like, all right, I can maybe play at the next level doing this. I went down my senior year, before senior year of high school, I went down to the Michigan football camp, and I was like, wow, there are a lot bigger fish in the in the pond than you. I went down to their O-line football camp, and it was like, oh, these guys are all going to Florida, go up to their waist. But they had long snapping competitions. When you go to these football camps, they have that. And I placed in the top 3 at that. So that's, I was like, oh, maybe I could do this to get to the next level. It helped that Steve was going to Michigan Tech, and I never. If anyone out there listening to this is in high school still, tell your high school coach that you want to play at the next level. I never did that, and Coach Hofer's like, you should have told me. I could have. These coaches are coming in left and right asking if there's anyone that you could think to play at the next level, but Steve told Coach Curley I was interested, and I sat down with Coach. I'm like, I just want to get on the. I can long snap. I just want to be a contributor to the team. And I went there for recruiting weekend when I was in senior in high school. In the wintertime, as you know, it's a great time. You get to meet the coaches, figure out what, I ran my 40 against the gentleman who I played with at Tech. He ran like a 4.3. I'm running like a 5.3 during recruiting week. And so it's like, again, put in your place real quick. And Steve and I went up to watch spring ball. And I was just like, I'm signing up for this. There's, these big, Pete Morla is on, playing tackle. There's the centers over the ball, throwing up I'm like, oh, am I really, this is a big step. But I went up to Michigan Tech, walked on. My first year, just so grateful that I could be up there. I thought, I was like, oh, maybe I'll get the long snap my first year. It's like, no, everyone redshirts your first year, except if you're Phil Milbrath. But I got up there and just basically I was on the practice squad for a year and loved every little bit of it. I was going against some all conference D tackles and D ends. The guys I'd go against every day in practice were 345 pounds, 6'5", and just like, you just had to grind. You just loved the grind. And I just think the reason I got to play was that it's like anything in I've always approached things at work. Doors open if you work your ass off. So there was some key injuries that happened, and my second year up there, I so got the chance to start, and I had no idea what the hell was going on. I still remember we were playing Winona, and you have to understand at Michigan Tech, the play calling is way different from high school. It's not, 32 trap, three back to the two hole. It's these numbers, letters, razors, and I had no idea what I was doing. But yeah, so that's how I got, the chance to get up to Michigan Tech and play. It was just, I don't know if that answered your question, Coach, but that's kind of.
Well, it's a great story, and you're being pretty modest about it. But you went from a walk on where you're trying to
Yep.
scrap to get on the team. And Coach Curley's told me this story many times when he's spoken about you, is that you went from a walk on and basically kind of kept pestering him until you got on the team, right? You came in as somebody that really was just trying to be a part of it and wound up starting for 3 years for him. And you guys had some pretty good success at Michigan Tech as well with you snapping the ball to Stevie Short.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was the one thing I always tell people is I had great coaches when I was out there. Our O-line coach, Butch Berry, who's now the offensive line coach for Miami Dolphins, he was my second because I had Jeff Dubendeck for the first year. I was basically a walk-on. He's like, you're on the team, you're long snapping, just get out for practice squad. Because I actually do remember this, Crouchy. My first practice at Michigan Tech, they're like, you're up with the specialists. I'm like, I want to be down with the guys and like work. The specialists are up to the upper. This is back when they used to practice down below, right? On Hubble Field. They're all up on the top field, shirts off, sunbathing, kicking a few. I'm like, this sucks. I don't want to get those guys in trouble. I mean, this is 15, 20 years ago now, but it was like, this sucks. And that was, Jeff's like, yeah, you can be on the practice squad for, offensive line. And then that's how I got it. But Coach Barry, shout out to him. He believed in me at times. He was one of the toughest coaches I've ever had in my life. But I'm sure if you asked anyone at Michigan Tech at the time, you would walk through the wall. I mean, you would just, he kept telling me you're the smallest offensive lineman in D1 and D2. What are you going to do about it? And this one's for you. I had to write this down because I completely forgot about this until the other day. Who was the center back in the early 90s for the Cowboys?
Mark Stepnoski.
Exactly. So we watched so much cut up film on him when I was at Michigan Tech because he was super undersized.
He was unbelievable. I mean, you talk about, yeah, exactly. You want to watch film on how to get footwork and how to get yourself in a spot and get the job done as an undersized center in the NFL. He was perfect. Thank you.
We watched so much film on him, and I learned so much, whether it was driving your nose through that linebacker's kneecap. I mean, that's what the type of mentality that you had to have at that time. So Coach Barry, he's in the big league. So that's a big part of the reason why I think I was successful. I shouldn't say success. I made it at Michigan Tech. If you looked at the offensive line when I started, it was, Franti's 6'5". Matt Desitel, my roommate, he's 6'4", and then there's some guy 5'10", and then everyone else just, there's a big dip in the middle. But that's how I approached it, was just work your ass off. I was super scared. Like, I'd get bumped and bruised and hurt. I was always in the back of my head, like Alex Smith, if you remember him in the NFL, when he went down with a concussion, he never really got his spot back. I was so much in fear that if I get hurt or don't limp through this, someone else is going to take my spot. So.
Well, Oj, I think, has a question for you about another coach that you had some interactions with.
Well, let me go through this. I got a few questions here for you.
Yeah.
And they can be yes or no answers. You can add to them if you want. I'm just going to go through them here one at a time. I got 3 for you.
Yep.
All right. And like I said, it's totally up to you on how you want to.
Lead the fifth, or I'll answer. Yep.
Okay, so number 1, can you drive a loader if you had to?
Oh, yes. Still can. Do you need me to expand on it a little bit, Oj?
I don't need you to.
Okay.
We're going to get to that in a little bit, son.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, that was number 1. Number 2, have you ever wet your pants during a college football game?
Yes.
Okay, I heard that rumor might be true.
Practice, games, you name it.
Were you guys in shotgun 50% of the time, or was
Oh, under
under
center.
center?
This is old school. They don't. These new kids don't know how to go under center. This was under center.
All right.
Poor Steve. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. And number three, have you ever drank milk directly from a cow?
Yes.
All right. There you go. I just
Your
those
sources are good, Oj.
He was texting
Yeah.
Fronty 7 minutes ago.
Not 7. No, it was earlier today, but yeah, I Josh and I talked, and I figured he had a few good stories to throw
Oh,
out.
yeah.
So there you go.
Well, he got the story and he asked me if this was really true about Chuck Klingbeil and the milk, and I said I'm pretty sure he used to get that right from Bacchus Farm and bring it up there.
That's exactly. I was going to mention that. Like, I've actually listened to one of your episodes where you guys actually talked about Coach Klingbeil. I was actually taking a sauna at my house, listening to that episode. It was just so fitting.
Oh, awesome. So let's transition then, son. Just kind of shift gears away from football. Let's talk about your time at Tech. This
Mhm.
experience, because when and again, just living in the area, being a
Yep.
fan of Tech, going to games and stuff. Some of the things that some of these our tens of fans may not know, but in OJ, we're talking about this earlier. Back your crew at Tech, and that was a great crew of guys. So you're still
Mhm.
friends with a lot of those guys.
Yep.
And the whole referee shenanigans at basketball games. For anybody that's ever is listening that ever went to a Tech game when these guys were in school, you guys used to dress up like referees and mimic them. And
Yep.
I can be honest with you, sometimes I used to catch myself watching you guys rather than the game.
We were just it was mostly Steve Short and I. We had an extra year at Tech. We got in. Well, first off, the girls basketball team was phenomenal, right?
Yeah, that was
And
during that time. That's right. Yeah.
yeah, they're phenomenal. And you're at Michigan Tech. There's not much going on. When did we start that? I think we started on the first playoff run. So that would have been like 2009 or 10. Steve and I spent spring break up at Houghton. Everyone else is going, Panama City and Cancun. We stayed in Houghton, and like the girls basketball tournament starting up, and like, what better thing to do is than tailgate, right?
Yeah.
So we there was lots of barley pop encouragement when we started doing that. But yeah, we followed the girls around. They were a winning program. It was good to give them some support. We did that 2 years, and I don't think it carried on much after we left, but um, it helped that I got a lot of I refed intramurals in college. Never played basketball in my life. I refed intramurals and I refed Hancock high school games. So it helped that I had some extra jerseys to kind of get that going. So
Well, why would you play high school basketball in Kingsford? You got a coach like Dan Holken in there. I mean, that's an position. What the hell?
again, I'm not athletic. So
Another fun fact that I was thinking about is that, kids go to college and being in athletics, it's a fraternity. There's no question about it. And you
yeah,
guys did a great job and had a lot of fun. But, back to the loader question, one of the things that people don't remember is that when you were in college, you were a volunteer fireman and worked for the city, I believe.
yep. So I tell this is my icebreaker at work is when I growing up, I wanted to be a football player, I wanted to be a firefighter, and I wanted to plow snow for the city. And I got to do all that at one time in college. And it was just like how this lined up. And it worked out like towards my end of I got my master's, so they were mostly night classes, and I'd work almost every night at the city of Houghton. Awesome guys that work down there. Me and Doug Larson worked together for most of the time. We'd be calling into is he still do it? Jimmy the Greek, the trivia. We'd be because you could only win a free sandwich at the Kaliva once a month. So once your month was up, we were dialing in to get your free roast beef sandwich. It was a great time at home. That was the one thing, like graduating and having to move on. That aspect of being on the fire department, helping the community out. I truly still miss that. And when I go back up there, it's like I want to see everybody else that I worked with when I was up there, but you just don't have time.
Well, let's put Oj on the hot seat here, Sant.
Yep.
As a avid listener, somebody who's listened to an episode more than once, which we still can't believe there's actually people that do that. But what are some of the things you're taking away from Oj's contribution to this podcast?
We got some technical difficulties here and there, Oj. But Oj, there's one thing, and I should write in questions more often. I've never done it. Just kind of I don't know if I'm in the circle yet to ask questions. But speaking of Dan Okinen, when you were interviewing him, You're talking about Mrs. Short, Mrs. Bessela. And she played basketball at Calumet, and Dan Okenin was like, "Oh, she's from Calumet." And you're like, "No, that's one thing I like about you, Oj. You just come in very confident. She's from Mohawk. She is not. She's from Amik."
I blew that. I did blow that. You are
Yeah.
100% correct. However, I'm going to come back with you then. See how you're so close to the Short and Besselo family.
Yeah.
Was she from Amik Village or Amik location?
Oh, you got me on that one. I'd say I thought it was down. I'll go with location. That's always the wild card.
You got it. You got it.
There we go.
Which would be when you're going to the Keweenaw, location is on the baseball, you know where the baseball field is.
Yep. Yep.
That's location side, village is on the other. So you got it. All right.
I did not know that.
One for one. Good.
Speaking of Steve, shout out. I know what shirt you have, a Michigan Tech shirt on, Crouched. Yeah. So today I got my Michigan Tech, but I also got my Denver Nuggets World Champs T-shirt on. So
yeah, that's cool as hell what he's done too. Boy,
Well,
boy.
yeah.
well, there too. I mean, Mom Short is from Amik location, and Dad, Coach Short, or whatever you call him at this point, is
Mr. Short. Yep.
Mr. Short is a Lake Linden grad. He's probably still one of the best athletes that walk those halls. And you and Steve are obviously very close. When this airs, you're gonna love the graphic that I put up on social media.
Hopefully it's not him full of piss hands, right?
No. But just some of the pictures with you guys, in your relationship. But talk about that dynamic.
Boy, I thought he had more for me.
Well, we'll get to that.
Was that it?
Well, I was going to maybe have you expand a little bit on, you actually got me into, I never in my wildest dreams would think I'd watch a documentary on Trout Creek Gymnasium.
And he said Crick.
He did. I appreciate that too.
Yeah.
All right. You watched all episodes?
I plead the fifth on that one.
All right. Continue on with Croce. I thought you had more trivia for me. I nailed Stepnoski and
no, the other one too is like taking sauna with Franti up in the Keweenaw a couple of years ago. Well, when you guys were first coming out, about the pizza. I still have not had it yet. What was the pizza joint in Copper? Is it Copper City that you really like?
The Drift.
The Drift. I still have to check that out.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, and it's off the beaten path, but it's worth the trip.
And I will bet you I'll bet you a 6-pack of your choice that you could not kill half. Well, I shouldn't say that. Let's go.
No, I can't eat much anymore, even though it looks like I can.
How about 4 pieces?
4? All right. Again, we go to the Keweenaw every year, so I gotta check that off the list. So
all right, I'm gonna take the under on 4.
All right.
Yeah, it's tough. It's very, very underrated stuff. And
my wife, when we were in college, she worked at the Ambassador, so that's where we always have to stop. So to get her off that path is gonna be tough. But
all right.
Hey, you gotta get your priorities in line when you're up this way.
And then the other thing too, Oj, you taught me this is, I know you're an educator, but you're educating people that are brothers-in-laws.
He teaches elementary gym.
But is it brothers-in-laws or brothers-in-law?
Brothers-in-law. I butchered that for about 4 straight episodes, and then I finally got a couple text emails from relatives, my dad's sister, my aunts, who they were educators also, that were pretty appalled by the fact that I couldn't figure that one out. So
I had no idea. So
I'm well, thank you. Yeah, it was.
But now I know.
I'm consistent now. I got her down.
All right, so let's just go back and kind of wrap things up here. But like you and obviously the connection with the Short family and the Keweenaw, and you and Steve are close friends. And but how cool is that to see what he's done with the Nuggets? I'm guessing you're probably fan number 1.
I go to 2 Timberwolves games a year. It's when Denver's here, and then the playoffs. And this past year, the Timberwolves have been doing good. So everyone's coming out of the woodwork. Hey, can your buddy get me tickets? I'm like, it's just cool to see Steve come to town. We usually get coffee. The dude loves coffee. We'll have coffee like all morning. Then he's got shoot arounds, and then they have a game at night. He'll come down to my house like the night before. We'll take a sauna. We'll go to the local establishment down the street. But a lot of the stuff with Steve, a lot of people think, oh, it's sweet, he's in the NBA. It's a lot on his family, right? You don't think about 41 road games and he doesn't get to do the load management stuff that you guys talk about. He's got to be there for every game. It's really cool to see. And that's one nice thing about living in a bigger city is I get to see him at least twice a year, minus the playoffs. So that kind of reduces the, hey, I got to fly out there to see him and his family and stuff like that, which I still needed, still need to keep that up. But, we talk quite a bit. I actually texted him tonight. Hey, you got a second? I know you got a game at 8 o'clock. I didn't know the pronunciation. Was it Bessala or Bessalo? And he got me straight. So
you're disrupting his day to get ready to prep for SS3TP.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Well, yeah, we talk war stories too. Like, you said we keep in touch. We have a texting chain. There's about 11 to 12 of us. Bobby Slowick, Matt Brennick, Josh Frant. There's just a bunch of us. So we have a trip planned. If Bobby ever gets a head coaching job, we're all going.
Oh, that would be fun. Yeah. That would be fun. That's going to happen too. That's going to happen.
Will there be tailgating?
If the wives don't listen to this podcast, hell yeah, there's going to be some tailgating.
Well, Sant, we're kind of running out of time here, but what else you got for us? I said, I know you listen a lot. It's always great to see you. Like I said, anybody who does not know you is missing out. You're one of the great people to be around, and the enthusiasm you bring to things. But what else you got for SS3TP that can get us over the hump?
I just first off, thanks for what you guys do. I know I started off with that, but really, you have people listening in weekly, whether the drives to work, to listen about the UP updates and all the sports. Maybe kind of cool that maybe you guys get interviewed one of these days to talk about your past. I know there's there's some things with that, but no, I mean, I'm just super grateful for having a chance to even play up at Michigan Tech. Lifelong friends, softball team in Minneapolis. If you guys ever in the Minneapolis area, there's a beer league softball team. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit. We got about 4 minutes left here before we get cut off. But yeah, give a plug for this softball thing. This is another Santi story that's awesome.
Yeah, so we have a local softball team in Minneapolis called the Uper Troopers. Kind of back to my wrestling days. Our first year, called Paul Coppola as our manager, signed us up to the top tier division in the Twin Cities. These guys are showing up with sponsorships. We're out there with 3 cases of beer. We went 0-34 that year. Still had a fun time, but then we lowered down into the league that we should be. We have a good time. Paul Coppola, Nelson Winky, bunch of the Clarks. It's almost all exclusive, either UP guys, Michigan Tech alum, or Michigan Tech football players. So if anyone's out there listening in Minneapolis area, we'd like to have you on the team. We're always looking for substitutes. So we're not the greatest we win, but more beers get deleted than runs. So.
Well, 0-30. Hey, you were 0-34 in a softball season. You were 1-34 in a wrestling season. So what the hell? That's impressive stuff right there.
Oh, we have fun.
Well, that's awesome, son. It's always a pleasure to be around you. Look forward to catching up with you this summer when you're up around. And
oh, for sure. Yep.
Keep listening. But SS3TP is very happy to have you join us tonight.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it so much. Again, there's way better athletes out there than myself. I just appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to talk about it. So,
all right. Thanks, man.
Go Flivers.